Hey everybody, and welcome back to Voxpo. It's Vape Live edition 4. This is our regular expedition into the world of vaping. I am here at Base Camp Derby, where we've set camp for this wonderful event. And I thank you so much for being here. Also, I want to thank for being here GrimmGreen, who is, basically vaping royalty as far as us English guys are concerned.
Oh, you guys.
A YouTuber, a phenomenal YouTuber, a massive, brilliant advocate for the industry, someone who has got real passion about vaping and really wants to help smokers on their journey to do something less harmful instead. So Nick, thank you very much for being here.
100%. My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm glad we could finally make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Just am I still? Oh, I am recording. Okay, good. So I don't know if you remember, but you were one of the very first people that I interviewed in the industry. I think it was about 6 years ago now in Dublin Vape Fest.
Oh, yes.
It was, I think the magazine was I think it was just on issue 2 at the time. So we were like a baby in the industry. We just started.
Yeah.
And then someone said to me, "Hey, Patrick, GrimmGreen's here, interview him." I said, like, people are going to hate me for this. I said, like, who's GrimmGreen? He's really famous.
That guy? Yeah, exactly.
And, I think I said to you, "Hey, I've got to interview you for Vapouround. Please be gentle with me because I don't know what's going on." And you said, "Hey, it'll be fine."
It'll be fine. It'll be fun.
We had a chat. But I've done a little bit of research this time. I didn't actually know this. The second edition, this is the second edition of Vapouround Magazine. It's got Ashley on the front cover. And on page 134, there is a review of the Lava Box DNA 200. And it's
look at that, GrimmGreen.
It's your celebrity interview. So I saw that. You've one of our first reviewers, so that was pretty good. The Lava Box DNA 200. What do you remember about that? Was it good?
It was pretty good. Volcano is one of those companies that were around towards the very beginning of when the industry kind of started taking off in the US, and they made a pretty good name for themselves. And I liked their products over the years. And that was one of the DNA boxes they released. And yeah, it was fun. It was a DNA box, it's hard to go wrong with that chip.
Yes. And I also remember way back then that the industry was obviously new in the UK and Ireland. And when you'd have a vape expo, we would have thousands and thousands of people that were queuing for hours to get in, waiting for the doors to open into the huge sort of plumes of vapor. And America was seen as the place to be. It's great. There's going to be lots of American companies here. They're at the forefront of all this. They know everything about vaping. They're the most vape-friendly country in the world. They've got everything. They're there. And now, what went wrong? It seems like vaping is like the devil's substance now in most parts of America. Ban it! Stop the kids getting it! Stop it!
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. Vaping, we grew real quickly, real big, real quickly, and I think we grew a little bit too big, too quickly. And politicians got involved, and things started getting political with vaping, and it wasn't just about getting smokers to quit or harm reduction anymore. Now there were sort of these political ideologies kind of interjected in there about the moral sort of, nicotine use is very, very bad because it addicts you to cigarettes. And we kind of get this stigmatizing language in the United States. We really like to do that. If you use a substance, you're going to get stigmatized for it. And that's kind of just what started happening in the United States. There was this youth use issue, which didn't really happen in the UK, and I don't want to say it didn't really happen in the United States, but the fears of a youth vaping epidemic, I think, were pretty overblown now that we've had a chance to go back and look at all of the data that came out of that. And politics is a hell of a thing. It can take something really simple and make it really overly complicated, and that's what happened in the United States. We have a lot of people in the U.S. now that just are misinformed on vaping, not not because of their own fault, just because that's what they're being told by, when you go on ABC News and you see kids in the hospital and they're talking about vaping. It's like, yeah, it scared people away. Of course it scared people away. I think that's what they were intending to do, was to scare people away from vaping.
Yeah, and it's very sad, and I think one of the problems that we had right from the beginning is that vaping devices were always referred to as e-cigarettes. So you had
Yeah.
that link straight away with
Mhm.
cigarette,
Yeah.
cigarette bad, e-cigarette modern way of doing bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I kind of, maybe I'm being too nice to sort of some people, but I think a lot. Maybe there are politicians who that's what they think and they don't know any better, and they're just sort of
Yeah.
normal people as well, and they
Yeah.
see the media saying that this is really bad and the group
Hmm.
saying that it's going to addict our children, and of course
Hmm.
nobody wants that to happen. But I've
Right. Of
looked at
course
the
not.
data, and unless I'm wrong, it seems that yes, there has been a greater uptake in America, but it seems that a lot of American children or youngsters, young people,
Yeah.
have
Young people.
switched experimenting with cigarettes to experimenting with
Yeah.
vaping. Once they've done
100%.
that experimentation, there doesn't seem to be the evidence that they're now moving on to smoking. It's like, hey, we've done that.
No.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We'll do something else now.
Yeah, it's
Um,
hard. It's hard when they keep peddling that gateway thing, because
yeah,
that's the biggest. Because to someone outside of it, it does kind of make sense. If you don't
yeah.
know anything about vaping or smoking, you can kind of go, "Oh, well, a sweet flavored vape will make them smoke cigarettes." Like, yes, that kind of makes sense in my head, but really, there's so much nuance to it. And if you look and see that we have currently the lowest youth smoking rates in the history of our country, in the history of our country,
Yes,
then you can't continually say that it's a gateway when no gateway appears.
I think
They're
that,
not going to smoking.
yes. And
And sorry, and in 20 between 2019 and 2020, pre-pandemic, youth vaping had already dropped something like 20% in the United States.
mm,
It's crazy, but that didn't get reported on. All we hear about is youth vaping, youth uptake, youth epidemic, disposables, regardless of what the actual data says, which is that they're not smoking cigarettes anymore. They're experimenting with vaping and they're not even continuing with that. Like, sorry, that's just what the data says.
okay, so I guess we are where we are. We can't.
We are
We
where we
can,
are.
we can all wish we could be somewhere else, but this is the place that we're in. So what do we do? What do we do now?
Yeah. I mean, that's the $1,000 question, isn't it? One thing that I would say that we should have been doing this whole time, and one thing we can do now and continue to do is, uh, uh, I- and I know it sounds like a broken record, but our testimonials really matter very, very much, very much. And I've been trying to drive this point home, across podcasts and YouTube, saying if you have the chance to do a testimonial for anybody, do the testimonial. Tell your story of, I smoked for this long. I'm this old. I've switched with vaping. I used this flavor. That's it. That's an incredibly powerful thing to have. We take these stories and we take them to legislators to show, look at all of these thousands of people that are your constituents that have made the switch to vaping. I think it's incredibly important. And the only example I can point to really that happened in the United States was there was a representative in the state of Rhode Island, Julie
Julie
Casimiro.
Casimiro.
Yeah, we all know Julie Casimiro,
Yes.
who was a pretty staunch anti-vaping, youth epidemic person. She heard stories of vapors that were her constituents. She spent time in a vape shop all day and saw adult after adult after adult come in and, buy these vape liquids so they didn't have to smoke cigarettes. And now she's all turned around on the subject. She's championing vaping. She's trying to undo some legislation that they had in Rhode Island, as well as implement new, much more reasonable regulations in Rhode Island. And all of that came from vapors' stories. So
And
I think that's a really important thing.
I think that's a really important story. And she was kind enough to be interviewed by me on the last Vape Live event we had about sort of three or 4 months ago now.
Excellent.
And I was struck by the fact that I said, why were you so anti-vaping in the beginning? What was it that made you so passionate about sort of ban vaping? And she said, every time you turned on the news, people were telling me that kids are getting hooked on vaping and it's going to ruin their lives. And I didn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
And then I said, what changed your mind? And she said, when I realized that it actually wasn't true, the flavors were there to sort of get adult smokers off cigarettes.
Yeah. 100%.
And I really, really wish that more politicians around the world would actually have the courage to say, I was wrong. I got that one wrong.
How great would that be?
That would be brilliant. Now she's done it, and I think she's a shining light and a beacon of hope. That if we can get the message across, and I totally agree with you, we should tell our stories. Then the politicians hopefully they'll begin to listen. In Europe, there's a body called the World Vapers Alliance, and they've started doing a new series where they ask politicians who are pro-vaping to tell us why they're pro-vaping. And that's sort of quite good, because if they can put the message out there onto the social medias, other politicians might listen to them, because it's someone in their industry, if you like, doing it. And I think we just have to slowly chip away at the negativity. I think that's all we can do at this point.
Yeah, that is, it's slow, and it's real, it's punishing, doing this slowly chipping away, slowly telling our stories, slowly changing minds. It's really effective because you're changing minds long term, but it is just a really slow process. I don't know that there's going to ever be one of those, singular moments where everything turns around. All it takes is one prominent person, politician, public figurehead type of person to sort of come out for vaping, really explain the science, really explain what's behind it, and get society on board. And so we can have a big shift and actually start saving smokers' lives. I don't think that time is going to come. I think it's going to be a slow climb up the mountain, changing one person's mind at a time.
Yeah, we've got to get over the curve. We're not going to flatten this.
Yeah.
We actually have to get over this one. It's as big as it's going to be. I was looking on Twitter yesterday, and I can't remember who it is, so I can't quote the person, but I saw a tweet about flavors saying that if the flavors were so important for children, the spearmint that you have in your toothpaste would put all the dentists out of business, because they'd all be sort of cleaning their teeth 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah, exactly. 3, 4. Well, and it's even crazier when you look at the actual CDC data. You can see that the number one reason given by any underage person for picking up vaping, the number one reason given was curiosity.
Yes.
Flavors wasn't even number 2. Flavors was number 3. But they're saying that was the number one reason, when it's, demonstrably false. But yet we continue with this, the flavors are what attracted the kids. It's like, well, not according to the data or the science.
Yeah. And the data and the science, that will also tell you that sort of young people, a lot more young people engage in other far more risky behavior.
Wow, yes.
Every now and again.
Yes.
And there doesn't seem to be a huge amount said about that. So we need to get people to just get things in proportion.
Perspective really matters.
The whole, I don't know exactly what it's like in America, but the whole way, certainly in the UK, that we're dealing with coronavirus is a brilliant example of that. Our government is fixated on it. Every single thing that they talk about is coronavirus, wear a mask, do this. And yet silently, the economy is like going to shreds, because the amount of money they're spending on things that aren't necessarily working. And people are now dying of other diseases, like sort of cancer and heart attacks, that they wouldn't have been, because they'd have been able to get into hospital to get treatment, but they can't now because of the fixation. We should never fixate on one thing. Everything should be in the round.
Yes. Well, everything should be in the round. And unfortunately, there's some things that just should not be politicized,
Yes.
like a pandemic or a disease like COVID-19 that is not bipartisan. It's not political. It doesn't care who it kills or goes after. But then you have people like, in the United States, you have people on the left telling that people on the right are causing this and they're, and we get all of this mixed messaging. And I mean, even in the United States, our Surgeon General, when COVID-19 was first like hitting hard in America, he said, "Don't wear masks. They don't work. I'm not worried about COVID. Don't wear masks." And then a week later, he's saying, "Well, no, definitely wear masks." It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, there went your credibility right out of the gate.
I know.
You lost a little bit of credibility there, bud.
But yeah, that's the way that is. But back to you, because you are the star of this show. Going back to when I spoke to you in Dublin, you had 210,000 subscribers and 25 million video views.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, that's so impressive. Today, your numbers have like just sort of shot through the roof.
It's been pretty good.
You're doing pretty good. I've looked at your schedule. I've looked at your videos. As far as I can tell, you seem to have kept up exactly the same pace all the way through as you did at the beginning. You don't seem to have like flagged at all. You're as enthusiastic now as you were back then.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely great. And I think that is a testament to it's genuine. It's from the heart with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is a big passion for me. And, it's one of those things where I sometimes try not to be focused on numbers or views because I feel like that kind of gets in the way of what I'm actually trying to do. I'm trying to get smokers to switch to vaping, and I'm trying to make sure that vapors stay vaping. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I really want to do. And sometimes things, get in the way, but I feel like as long as I stay on that mission, that I'm good. Like that's my mission. That's my clear path that I wanted to do. And it feels good. And I'm just a big cheerleader of vaping at the end of the day. I've seen what it can do. I've seen what it did for me. I've seen what it can do for other people. After talking to tens of thousands of people who have said, I smoked for 50 years, couldn't quit, finally quit with vaping. And I'm thinking, man, 50 years. This person had a habit for 50 years that they couldn't quit. And then along comes this little miracle battery with liquid. And suddenly they can breathe and walk up a flight of stairs and taste their food again. And it literally changes people's lives. And after seeing that firsthand, I can't not be the biggest cheerleader for vaping.
Absolutely.
I have to. Vaping has to win. We have to save some smokers' lives.
And of all the interviews I've done over the years, there's been quite a few, obviously. One of the things that you said stays with me, and you said you feel you don't get a nicer feeling than when someone says to you, "Hey, I've watched one of your videos, I've heard you talking, and I'm free. I'm free, and I've got my life back." And it's so brilliant, and you said that with such such a passion and such a real joy to be part of an industry that's helping people.
Yeah, it really feels good. It's one of those things that fuels you because, like I said, it's just such a huge thing. When you're a smoker, non-smokers don't understand that what smoking feels like and what it feels like to want to quit, but still, you reluctantly keep smoking, but you want to quit, but you keep smoking. And then along comes a product that makes it really, really easy, where you're just substituting one product for another and you go, oh, that was so easy.
Yeah.
So easy. And you just go, yes. And then it happens again and more people switch and more people switch. And, there's so many different, I guess, like little pockets of vaping. Like you have hobbyist people that have like the mechanical mods and RDAs, and there's other people who just use simpler sub tanks and things like this. And, I'm still one of the YouTubers that still reviews a lot of pods because I like it when smokers watch my video because they're looking for pods, So
Yeah.
I get to talk to, by doing these pod videos, I still get to talk to that transitioning smoker, or that, that smoker that hasn't quite transitioned yet. And that, I get a lot of satisfaction from. And additionally, when I review RDAs or I talk to builders and squonkers, and it's like, there's this whole other side to it as well. I don't know. It's hard. I'm just going on and on. It's just hard not to love vaping. There's something for everybody. There's a million different ways to vape. It can be satisfying. You can use as little or as much nicotine as you feel satisfied by. You can vape at high wattages, low wattages, pods. And I just think it's really, I think there's never been a better time to be a vapor right now.
No, I think that's absolutely true. The industry has grown up a lot, and it's matured a lot.
Yeah.
In the early days, especially when we'd go to shows, it was almost like companies saying, "Hey, look how big we've got! Look how much money we've got!
Yeah,
Hey,
right. Yeah,
we're bigger than that guy over there." And it's like,
yeah,
and I guess you can understand it because it shot up so quickly, so
it
rapidly.
did.
And I
Yeah.
think now it's settled down, and the message is more of, we can help smokers. We want to help smokers, and that's what we're in business to do. And there was a lot of infighting, I noticed, in the earlier days as well.
Oh yeah.
And I think that there still is some, but I think that sort of calmed down a little bit. And I think people are now getting together. There's a lot of industry associations that are saying, we're better together, basically. And they're being smart now, and they're targeting the right people. They're targeting politicians, and they're saying, look, all we want you to do, just sit down and listen to us. Just listen to our story, ask any questions you want, and we will do our best to educate you. And I think slowly and surely, that is working. And then along comes the World Health Organization and says that smoking is as bad as cigarettes. What is going on?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, that the World Health Organization is one of those things that just, man, it really bothers me. It sticks in my craw just because, when we talk about people like Mike Bloomberg, he's just rich. That's it. He's not, no one elected him to be policeman of the world or anything like that. He's just an unelected rich guy that wants to use his money to influence the way you live.
Yes.
And that is that really bothers me, because at least with politicians, you can look and go, we elected you. You're our public servant. There's some accountability there a little bit.
Correct.
But when you get into like these billionaire philanthropists who literally just want to use their money to change the way you live, that's a real, how can we pretend that's not like a human rights thing?
Well, it is a human rights thing as well. And especially while it is a human rights thing, if people were influencing the way we live and you could stand back and go, but it's saving a whole load of lives, you might think, well, maybe there's something in it. But this isn't saving lives. This is making sure that people stay addicted to cigarettes, which is killing them.
Yeah.
That's what's really, I can't get my head around that.
I cannot either. I'm only hoping that the United Kingdom and your army of scientists and physicians will go to the World Health Organization event and defend vaping this November. That's all I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on the UK right now, and I really, really hope that we step up to this challenge. We've gone through a huge and messy and disruptive upheaval over the last sort of 6 years.
Yeah. I've watched it.
I think it's about 6 years, especially when we left Europe, when we decided to leave the EU. And there are still people that are really bitter about it. There are people who say we should never have left, and there are people who say, hey, we've left, it's the best thing that happened, and everything in between. But the reality is, go back to saying, we are where we're at. So we've left. So now let's make the most of it. So for the very, very first time, we will send representatives to the COP9 conference, and they are speaking on behalf of the UK. They're not speaking on behalf of the European Union, which has its own sort of different agenda now. It's becoming quite clear. And we can say, hey, you guys are wrong. Our top researchers say this. Here's the evidence. It's actually this. Here's the evidence on that too. And if that can, again, it might be a slow process, but if that can start the process, I probably would not be able to be prouder of our politicians.
Yeah. And Godspeed to you. That's all I'm really looking forward to is COP9 and the UK going up there to sort of defend science. And I think that's just amazing. I think that's brilliant. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that like next year I'm interviewing you and you're going, "Hey Patrick, why did you guys drop the ball?" I'm hoping that.
Yeah. No. Of course not. I would never do that. And it's going to be a tough battle. The World Health Organization, they're very set in their ways. It's one of these problems that we run into with just tobacco control in general, is we have so many people in tobacco control that have been doing it for so long that they're just so set in their ways that they can't see another off ramp or another option or another solution. It's like, nope, status quo, taxation and stigmatizing. And if you want to quit, you can call this toll-free helpline, and then that's it. That's what we stick to.
It
makes me insane.
It is totally insane, especially when there is something there that works.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you can't use that. Why?
Yeah. Why?
Well, we don't want you to. There are other ways.
Yeah, that's it. That's
I've tried them and they don't work. Yeah, well, then stick smoking. Then stick with smoking.
Yeah,
that's going to kill me.
Yeah.
Oh
well. Yeah. Oh well. And it's like, well, quit. They tell you quit smoking, and it's like, okay, I quit. Oh well, not like that. Not that way.
Yeah.
Not that way. That was easy and fun and enjoyable and effortless, and not that way. Use a patch.
And that is that's something else that nail that you hit on the head, which is amazing. You never get a whole group of smokers together go like, oh, I love this brand, or I love this. This is so brilliant. I'm so glad that I found this. Hey, look at it. Just look how sleek this cigarette is and stuff.
I know.
But with vaping, there is such a passion, and everyone's got their views and things. Hey, this works for me. Oh, I've tried that. This works for me. And obviously, you've got years and years of content out of all this.
Sure.
Now, within this niche, there are so many different subsets of devices and styles that work for different people. And the great thing that you and people like you do is you allow smokers to come into this world and say, these are the various things that might work. This is what you might want to try.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we set people on their journey that way.
Yeah, we send.
When I say we, I mean you. I don't do that.
And I mean, it's fun because it's not. I don't want to use the word fun. It's interesting seeing. People, it's like any other thing where people will quit smoking and they'll be vaping and they'll be like in my chat or interacting with me in some way. And then they'll kind of disappear. And I go, oh, I wonder whatever happened to this person. And then I'll hear from them like 6 months later. He'll say, oh, I ran out of liquid and I bought a pack of cigarettes and I started smoking again, but I'm back vaping now. And I got this, and this. And so I'm back. And I'm like, yes, welcome back. Everybody has a different journey. Everybody has a different path. So if you smoke and then you vape for a few months and then you go back to smoking, like, don't beat yourself up. Everybody has their path. And if, eventually if you just smoke more, or if you vape more than you smoke, you'll kind of just start vaping more than you smoke,
Yes, exactly.
People always harp on the dual use, and that drives me insane because that's how you quit. You have to dual use. That you do the same thing with patches or gums or anything else. Kind of have to dual use in order to quit. So everybody has their own journey. So don't feel bad. People always say, I broke down. I had 2 cigarettes yesterday. I'm like, I don't care. If you want to smoke a cigarette, smoke a cigarette. And when you don't, try a vape. Like, don't beat yourself up. It's difficult and it's different for everybody,
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's like, say, for example, if you've been eating really unhealthy food for the last 20 years and you're out of shape and you're overweight and you start going to the gym and you're still eating things that you shouldn't be eating. Well, hey, you go to the gym now, so that's a start.
Right, exactly.
And then what it will be is eventually you'll do that more and you go like, hey, I don't need all these burgers and sort of and cakes.
Exactly.
And so don't beat people up about, people are human. We've all got flaws. We've all got things that we need to improve about ourselves. So
100%.
And I think we as a vaping community should be doing all that we can to help the smokers. We don't want to demonize people for smoking because that's completely wrong. 99 or perhaps even slightly more, at least 99% of people who are vapers were smokers anyway. So don't beat someone up for doing something.
Don't beat someone up.
Do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, and it's even like, using like stigmatizing language, like even in the United States, I've been trying to make, CASA, we've been trying to change like nomenclature around a little bit. And even using the term, I don't even like the terminology of calling someone a smoker because it just seems so demeaning. Like you're reducing this person down to an activity that they do. You're a smoker.
Yeah.
And that just seems like,
Well, I get you.
make that person feel like you're just a smoker, So I've been trying to, even just simple changes, like I've been trying to say smoking adults or
Yes.
something like that,
Yeah.
rather than just you're a smoker.
Yeah.
Just little changes like that can shift the whole like narrative a little bit where, okay, well, maybe we stop looking at smokers like they're the fucking bottom rung of society. And maybe we just look at them like they're just people and stop stigmatizing them so much.
Yeah, I think here they treat
It's a
people
lot
like
of
me,
little changes.
journalists. We're the bottom rung of society. We're quite low down there. I'm one of the good guys trying to get people to stop smoking, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so. Over the years, so what's your journey been like? How have things changed for you? Do you find that you're, you still love it, obviously, you're still sort of, you're still in demand, you're everywhere. How has it been for you personally?
It's been a hell of a trip. It's not something I ever expected to do, or I'm one of these people that I grew up in a small town and I just wanted to have a job and live at my house and play video games and go to work and just live my life. I never expected to be a person, with a cause. I never had a cause before, but vaping is my cause, and so that feels good. And it was just a complete, like a complete 180 of my life, as far as all I did was quit smoking with vaping. And then I got on YouTube and started telling people, and I started telling more people, and then they started telling people, and they started telling people about me. And so I started telling more people about, vaping. And it's been, it's been one of the weirdest times of my life, 100%, but I wouldn't want to do anything else. I've never had so much satisfaction from, editing a video and then uploading it, knowing that, if 20,000 people watch this video, maybe 50 or 60 of them might be smokers, and then maybe 30 or 40 of them might actually pick up a vape. Like that's what really keeps me going and like really, really fuels me to keep this like enthusiasm about vaping, because it does, like anything else, it can wear down on you. And there's some days where I don't want to talk about vaping, and I don't want to go on Twitter, and I don't want to argue with an Illinois congressman about the actual youth vaping numbers. Just days I don't I don't want to do that. But ultimately I don't know, I feel so compelled. Vaping has been so good to me and provided me with so much, with a platform, with an income, with a career. It's provided me with so much that I can't not give everything to vaping. I just can't. I owe it. I owe everything. I owe my life to vaping.
And I think increasingly you do actually engage more with politicians and legislators.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah, trying to. Do you find that they listen, or are a lot of people like have closed minds and going, "No, I'm not listening to you. You're the end."
Yeah, a lot. It's unfortunately, yeah. You feel like you're not heard. You always feel like you're not heard, and it seems that, at least speaking strictly from the United States perspective, it seems like politicians aren't interested in learning about it. Just aren't interested. Like, I don't care, and I'm not interested in learning about it. And it's hard when in the United States, when we have politicians who, and this is going to sound like an ageist thing to say, and it's not, but I have my representative in California, Senator Dianne Feinstein, was born in the silent generation. Older. I mean, I'm not discounting what she's done for the United States. I'm sure she's been a great, representative, but the idea that someone from the silent generation is going to have the nuanced information about harm reduction technologies in the 21st century, I feel like she's just out of touch. And I feel like there's a lot of politicians that are just old and out of touch and don't understand new technology and don't want to progress forward. And it kills me. It kills me that someone from the silent generation, you know, like went to high school in the 40s type of thing, has a good grasp on what's happening in schools today.
Mhm.
That doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like you're so completely out of touch. It's like, I'm going to try to explain vaping to you, but I don't think you'll ever get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's unfortunate you feel unheard. Ultimately, at the end of the day, in the US, you just feel unheard. No matter how many times you tweet or call or write an email, you always feel unheard. It's
I think
frustrating.
it's very frustrating, and I think if we could only get across to politicians the fact that what is vaping? It's something that will help you achieve your health goals. What do
Yeah.
you think? It will help you achieve your health goals. You want to get people off cigarettes. You want
Yeah.
to get fewer people in the emergency room. You want to get fewer people sort of dying of heart disease and cancers. Vaping is what is going to help you do that. You don't have to
Yes.
understand how it works, but the
Right.
evidence is it will help this happen because it
Yes.
will reduce the smoking rates, and it's the smoking rates that are causing these bad things.
Yes, absolutely. And
Actually, quite simple.
it's really simple, but even orgs like Campaign for Tobacco for Kids, they're a big issue for us here in the United
Yeah.
States and in Canada and stuff like that. They tried to get into the UK, but the UK wasn't having that. But Campaign for Tobacco for Kids over the last few years have like subtly shifted their mission from getting kids to not smoke cigarettes. Well, now it's nicotine addiction, nicotine de-addiction. They went from smoking, which definitely causes harm, to just nicotine, which is anybody going to the hospital for cancer of the lungs just from nicotine? No, nobody is, and they won't. But when there's no more dragons left to slay, you have to create a dragon. And so now that there's no more, smoking is driving off of a cliff with our smoking rates, we need a new dragon to slay. So nicotine, youth vaping, and nicotine is that new dragon. And it's anti-science, it's anti-health.
I think
Makes me
one of the
insane.
things that the point that you've just made, I think one of the things that really shocked me is the number of surveys of medical professionals.
Yeah.
And a high percentage of medical professionals think that it's nicotine that causes cancer.
Yeah. Crazy.
You're wrong.
Yeah. Super wrong.
Maybe that would explain why this is happening, but it doesn't. And that was the issue. You assume that people know certain things, but it's like doctors might know certain key medical things that might help them make a diagnosis and might help them get their patients off something that's addictive and harmful, smoking. But that's just really weird, and it kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, it does. And the UK has been actively combating that.
Yeah.
They've been rolling out these guidelines for doctors. Like, look, you have to recommend vaping. Trying to get all of these British physicians on the same page. Like, you guys have to start recommending vaping to your patients that smoke, type of thing.
And we're good at that. We're now in a situation where we have a trial up and running where in certain hospitals, anyone that goes into the ER, accident emergency, as we call it, if they're smokers, they're given a vaping device, even if they're not admitted for smoking. Hey, do you smoke yet? Do you want to try this? Report your findings back. And it's like a proactive approach to getting sort of smokers to quit, because I think we found that 1 in 4 admissions to the emergency room in the UK are smokers anyway. So we're actively trying to make this happen, and I think it's really, really good that we're doing it. New Zealand as well is doing great work in promoting vaping, which is ironic because Australia is not worse than the US. No, you can't do that. And I think if only people would take a step back and just examine what's happening, and maybe just allow themselves to be a little bit more open-minded, we might have a different situation. But I think I agree with you. I think we can just keep plugging along. I think that's basically it for the time being.
Yeah. I think, and one thing I think what needs to happen in society is people just need to be okay with someone doing maybe something that you don't like, or that you may not partake in yourself, or you may not enjoy, or you might even think is like a bad or negative thing. We have to be okay with letting people do those things. You know, I think motorcycles are really super dangerous. I'm not going to stop someone from riding a motorcycle. They can ride a motorcycle. That's their own, you know, we have to be okay with letting people do risky things.
Mhm.
We have to.
That's totally true.
Yeah.
Sword swallowers as well. That's a bit dangerous. I would never
That's
do it
really
myself,
dangerous.
but
Yeah,
I
we
don't
don't
mind
pass
watching someone doing it.
we don't pass anti sword swallowing legislation or anti snake handling
Absolutely.
legislation. That's dangerous.
That's absolutely it. Go back to America. Obviously, the PMTA process is dragging on and on
Oh yeah.
and on. Where are we at with that? What's going on there?
Oh, it's just a big mess. I wouldn't expect the US federal government to move quickly or efficiently really on anything because they have no motivation to. But under court order, they finally had to do the PMTA deadline. And so we all got, well, I say we, but a lot of organizations and companies got their PMTAs in before the deadline in May. And FDA has until September 9th of this year to review the PMTAs. And by September 9th of this year, they have to start approving some PMTAs.
Mhm.
That's where we're at. FDA has come and said, we're not going to be able to do that. We're not going to be able to approve the PMTAs by September 9th. And so what happens then is everybody that was still allowed to be on the market because they had a PMTA application in after September 9th, you're not allowed on the market anymore because the year grace period is over.
That's ended.
So because the FDA has been slow at approving PMTAs, all of these companies that played by the rules are now going to be put out of business. They're not going to be able to remain on the market. So that's where we're at. There is one small branch of the government, the Small Business Administration, that is pushing the FDA to go to a judge to get an extension for the PMTAs for another year. So till September 2022, so that everybody who submitted a PMTA can still legally be on the market, because it's at no fault of their own. They followed the rules. They got the money. They did the applications. They played by the rules. It's the FDA that is bureaucratically dragging its feet. So the Small Business Administration is saying, hey, FDA, this is your fault. You need to go to a judge and you need to request an extension on these PMTAs. That's where we're at right now.
So is the FDA saying we're not going to be able to get a single one out by September?
Right.
Or
yeah, FDA is basically saying we don't have the ability, manpower, resources to go through all of these, because the FDA was caught I have a hard time believing they were caught so off guard by vaping. But back in 2016, when FDA first announced these deeming regulations, Mitch Zeller, who was director of CTP at the time, the Center for Tobacco Products, he said, we'll probably see a few thousand PMTAs. Few thousand PMTAs. Fast forward to 2021, over 6 million PMTA applications, which means that the FDA's manpower to go through these is non-existent. And they basically said, we're underfunded. We don't have enough people to go through these applications.
But if they thought they could do a few thousand, surely they could get some through?
A few, right. They have to get some through. The problem is FDA is going to have to figure out how to control the messaging and optics of this, because up into and including right now, FDA has been mostly against vaping. But these PMTA applications, some of these products are the majority of these products are flavored. The science is sound. The applications are complete. And FDA is going to have to approve flavored vape products as appropriate for the protection of public health, which means they're going to have to suddenly pivot and do a 180 on all of the messaging they've been giving for the last few years.
Yeah,
So I really think it's a matter of FDA trying to figure out how to pivot and with the optics and say, no, properly regulated vapor products from FDA, these are the good ones, but the ones from before, those were,
It would be nice to think. It would be nice to think that they're using that time now to come up with that kind of language. That would be so brilliant if they were. But
That would
Maybe
be,
not. Who knows?
it's like when politics gets involved and when mainstream media and messaging gets involved, things get sticky. People remember what you say. If you spend 5 years demonizing vaping and then suddenly go, oh, but we approved all of these flavored vaping products.
That's exactly the case.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, there is some good news though. I mean, if everything gets taken off the shelves because the process is slow, at least you guys in America can order online from anywhere in the world and have it delivered to your house. Oh, hang on a second. No, you can't even do
we
that.
can't do that
No.
anymore. Yeah, we can't. But I will say we have in the United States for the last few months, we've had a really good black and gray market that has honestly really been thriving. And maybe I don't want to incriminate myself, but the idea that all of these companies that didn't play by the rules, they never cared about FDA, never did a PMTA, never cared about regulations, legalization, anything. They are the ones who control the market now because they're not on FDA's radar.
Yes.
So there's all these smaller companies now that are selling more liquids and more vape products under the FDA's radar. So we have a nice little gray and black market in the United States right now. It's expensive like all black and gray markets, but it is thriving.
And history has shown us that when you try and ban something that's established, it will find a way. It will find a way out there.
The market will find a way.
So yeah, that will obviously be happening. It would be nicer if you guys, if it could move a little bit faster, so we can have regulated, sort of properly sort of tested products out there that people
I would love that.
Have faith in. And I hope it will happen. I really want it to happen. I want the vaping industry in the US to be back where it was, that the world is
flourish.
For you guys.
I know.
It's brilliant. This is everything. This is what's happening. And I've got faith that it will.
I do too. I have a lot of faith. I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's just a matter of when, because harm reduction measures like this always win, and technology and progress always win. And you can go back in time and see, these old propaganda posters from the 1940s where they were warning people against, electricity.
Yes.
Electricity, dude. They were saying, oh, it's going to make you sterile. It's going to erase your children's memory. Don't vote for electricity in your town because electricity is going to ruin the family and all this stuff. But what? Electricity is fucking everywhere now, and we have electric cars. So progress like this is always slow, but it's going to come to a point, I think, where we look at vaping and we go, well, how could you ever think any differently? Of course, this helps smokers. Of course, it's less harmful. I think it's going to be taken as like Bible truth. How could you ever think anything about other than, that vaping's the greatest thing on earth? How could we ever have demonized this for so long?
Yeah, well, I certainly hope that will happen, and we'll sort of
it will
that direction again. We are almost out of time, believe it or not. That went quickly. But I want to sort of thank you very much for
my pleasure
spending time with me today.
Yeah, thank you.
You have been such a constant voice in this industry, a voice of reason. And someone that you've got this amazing ability to communicate with people clearly. You've got a great following. Please keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I will. It's all I know how to do at this point.
And hopefully, when the world opens back up again, hopefully we'll meet at some show somewhere.
Yes, I'm dying to get back to the UK. Dying to get back to the UK.
Yeah, at the moment, I don't think. Are we letting Americans in? I don't know. You're not letting us in. I know that. So
yeah, I don't think we're letting anybody in.
Yeah. It's really strange, yes. But anyway, there it is. That's the way.
There it is.
Do you want to? Is there anything else that you want to get across? Anything that you want to say? Oh, because here's a point. We at Voxpo, there are probably people watching right now who don't know who you are, don't know who I am. They are smokers, and they're here because they're interested. What would you say to them? And they should listen to you because you're brilliant. What would you say?
I would say just try vaping. There's a lot of people. I talked to a lot of people who have smoked, and they said, oh, I tried vaping. When did I try vaping? I tried vaping in like 2014 or 2015. Didn't really like it. Didn't really stick with me. Vaping technology has come an incredible distance from then. And the vape gear and pods and stuff that we have now are better than they have ever been. And if you tried vaping before and you kind of went, it's maybe not for me, a little too, try it again. The technology's come a really long way. And I believe the technology is better now than it ever has been. And it's so much easier to switch. And again, just don't, if you want to quit and you try a vape and then you have some cigarettes and then you try your vape and then you have some cigarettes, that's fun. That's part of the process. That's a very normal thing. You try to vape more than you smoke. And, you know, if you stick with it, eventually, I think you'll be successful. I think you'll be successful.
Brilliant.
No time like the present.
Brilliant advice. Thank you so much. We are completely out of time.
Okay.
And I just want to thank you again. Thank you everyone for listening, for being at Voxpo. I hope you've enjoyed the content that we've had for you, and we will speak again sometime. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.